Get ready with me. So there's this girl on YouTube who I really enjoy. She does readings and she's really talented. Her readings are really powerful. But interestingly, she has a very significant lisp. And it's very striking when you hear her speak. And, sometimes a little bit challenging to figure out what she's saying, but it doesn't seem to get in her way at all. It really blows me away and got me kind of thinking and sort of reflecting on my own experience. What it had me ultimately thinking about is, what if on the other side of our biggest fears and biggest challenges, that's where our biggest gifts lie? Pretty much all of the areas that I've been challenged in greatly in my life are the same areas that ultimately turned out to be areas of passion, areas related to my calling, and in some ways, the areas where my gifts lie. So for example, I've always been afraid of public speaking. When I was in high school and all through college, even the thought of raising my hand in class would get my heart racing. It would feel like such a huge challenge to even consider raising my hand. And so oftentimes I didn't. I just sort of got used to being silent when I had something to say. In grad school, it became particularly challenging because you're supposed to present on your research and do these public speaking things. And it was agonizing. It really helped me to stretch outside of this fear, but every moment was pure terror. Fast forward to now with starting this channel, the moment I click on the camera, I start stammering. I cannot get my words out. That's why I have to edit my videos a lot, because otherwise you just hear me fumbling over my words half the time. And that's not my experience when I'm talking in my normal everyday life at all. And yet it's become more and more clear that talking on camera is an area that I feel really compelled to focus my work right now. It feels like it's part of my calling. So it's really ironic that it was so hard to access my voice from a very young age. Another example is that because I grew up in the military, we moved all the time. And all of that moving left me feeling really unsteady and ungrounded, not very solid in my root structure. And ultimately, later in life, helping other people learn how to feel more grounded and stable in their root structure became a huge focus of my interest area in my work and my calling. And I can think of another example, probably also related to moving a lot, but throughout my whole life, I felt like I sort of didn't belong, didn't fit in, didn't have a strong sense of community. So many other people grew up together and got to stay together their whole lives. So when I would move somewhere new, sometimes felt impossible to figure out how to be a part of those friendship groups when people were already so connected. And then living far away from my family to be close to my husband's family, only to have him pass away, again had me feeling really challenged in the area of community and just really at a loss for why having access to community seemed to be so easy and come so naturally to some people, but it was an area that almost didn't really feel like I was deserving of in some ways. And now what's emerging is a very strong desire to create community as part of my calling and to help people feel the solid sense of belonging and love and safety and security and community that comes from anchoring into and growing a relationship with Source, developing a strong spiritual life in the ways that feel right to you, in the ways that feel really deeply resonant. That process not necessarily needing to conform to what anyone else sees as the right way to do spirituality, whatever that means. So to take this even further, what this had me reflecting on is the possibility that all of this is sort of by design, that all of this is not random. What if the very areas that you're gifted and talented and reflective of the roles that you're meant to step into in your calling and your sacred purpose, what if those are the very attributes, traits, characteristics that are targeted by spiritual warfare from the beginning? That would make so much sense. It has me really curious whether our strongest areas of contribution are targets for darker energies that would want to target the light and make sure that people who are meant to contribute to that light in a certain powerful way grow up questioning that very area of their life so that they are strongly hindered right out of the gate and so that there are obstacles. So to me, this has a couple really important implications. It has me realizing that it might be really important to Get curious about the areas of your life where there has been a lot of opposition, obstacle, struggle, perhaps a lot of fear, a lot of hardship, and perhaps ask yourself, what's on the other side of that? If I were to work on this or overcome that or devote myself to really using this as a strength, finding ways to work around it. In other words, if I were to get to the other side of this challenge, of this hardship, what would I be able to accomplish? And how do I feel about the idea of that? Does that light me up? Does that make me really excited? Because I have a feeling it would. But this also has other implications that are really interesting. It becomes really important once you begin to cultivate that area of your life and grow it and heal it, that you also protect it. Because there's a good possibility you'll continue to be challenged in that area. For example, with my throat chakra, it's really clear that that is constantly a challenge. So it's really important for me to call in and to ask for and to pray for protection of my throat chakra. Maybe that protection comes in the form of spiritual protection. Maybe it comes in the form of really practical steps that you take to safeguard and protect that area of your life, because you know that it is a powerful asset to the light and that it therefore might continue to be targeted over the course of your lifetime. And so treating that part of you as precious, as special, and therefore as worthy of special additional layers of protection. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know what you think. And if you have examples of this sort of stuff in your own life, I would love to hear about it in the comments. Take the very best care, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.